The mahogany table gleamed like gilt under courtroom lights. My husband's lawyer read the will with the tone of a man who'd practiced pity. To my beloved wife, Margaret Harper, I leave my love and gratitude. Nothing else. My son shifted in his chair. My daughter-in-law bit back a smile. I didn't blink. The lawyer cleared his throat. The estate, the house, the company, all go to Mr. Daniel Harper, Jr., my son. The boy I raised on discipline, grace, and inheritance talks at the breakfast table. Everyone waited for me to break. I didn't. I simply folded the will, placed my wedding ring on top, and said, "Is that all?" The lawyer hesitated. "There's one more item, a sealed USB drive Mr. Harper requested to be played, only if Mrs. Harper was present." My son frowned. "That's unnecessary." But the lawyer shook his head. "It's part of the will." He inserted the drive into his laptop. The screen flickered. My husband's voice filled the room. Calm, recorded, final. "If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. And the truth is finally free." Every eye turned to the speaker. Every lie in that room started to tremble. I smiled, slow, deliberate. "Stay till the end," I whispered. "You'll see why he left me nothing." The room smells like polished wood and money that never learned manners. I sit very still. Stillness is leverage in families like ours. Daniel drums his fingers on the arm of his chair. The rhythm is cocky at first, then careful. Elena, his wife, keeps smiling at the lawyer like she's already hosting a victory brunch. The screen glows with my husband's frozen face, the video on pause. "Continue," I say. My voice doesn't swell. It settles. The lawyer, Mr. Bell, touches the spacebar. The recording resumes. "Maggie, if you're in that room, you already know I left you nothing on paper. I had to, for the ones circling the table." Elena's smile twitches. My son doesn't breathe for a full second. Before I explain, look in the blue folder under the conference phone, the one with the raised seal. No one moves. "Please," I tell Mr. Bell. He slides the folder out as if it bites. Raised seal, blue linen. My husband's taste all over it. Inside, 3 documents. The first, typed cool as winter, temporary transfer, emergency governance. The second, handwritten, my husband's restless script. The third, short, sharp, notarized yesterday. Elena leans. "What is it?" Mr. Bell lifts the top page, coughs into a silk handkerchief. "Read," I say, aloud. He obeys. "In the event of my death, operational control of Harper & Co. passes to Daniel Harper interim for 14 days. Daniel looks relieved. Elena exhales, too loud. "Keep reading," I say. "During the same period, financial disbursements are frozen. No asset sales, no line expansions, no collateralization, no board appointments. After 14 days, control passes to Trustee Alpha in accordance with Trust H, Schedule B." Daniel blinks. "Trust H? What is that?" Elena's smile cracks at the edges. Mr. Bell swallows. "The second page is personal." "Then read it personally," I say. He adjusts his glasses. "Maggie, you taught me to tell the truth even when it hurts. The truth is, I left you nothing in the will because I left you everything somewhere else. If they want the house, let them. If they want the title, let them. Titles are sticks. Keys are doors. Keys." I feel the smallest weight in my purse and resist the urge to touch it. Elena clears her throat. "This is melodramatic." "Be patient, dear," I tell her. "Men who prefer mistresses don't usually prefer melodrama. They prefer proof." Daniel flinches at mistresses. Elena stares straight ahead. On screen, my husband looks older than he ever allowed in mirrors. Trust H holds the real company and the real estate, not the shell with the debt. You'll hear about that soon enough. Maggie, if you're hearing this with a room full, remember, kind faces can be hungry. The video pauses itself. The screen goes black. A quiet click from under the table. A second device. Mr. Bell frowns. That wasn't me. The conference phone lights amber, a pre-scheduled playback. My husband's voice again, smaller, as if recorded late at night. Belle, if you followed my instructions, you did not tell Daniel about the bridge loan. Good. Let him pretend he understands the balance sheet. Keep him safe from it. Daniel sits forward. What loan? Mr. Bell opens, closes his mouth, a fish learning English. Elena's phone buzzes. She silences it with a thumb as red as ambition. I lift the handwritten page. My husband's ink has bled in 2 spots, where he pressed too hard. Maggie. If they were kind, I would have written a soft will. If they were patient, I'd have given them time. They were neither. This isn't punishment, it's protection. Trustee Alpha is the person you told me not to hire because he charges too much. You were right. That's why I hired him. P.S. The ring box in my desk is not jewelry. It's a key. I look up. The ring on my finger feels heavier than gold for exactly 1 breath. Daniel tries on concern like it's a blazer. Mother, this is obviously a riddle. We can sort it at home. Home? I ask. The one the board mortgaged last month as collateral? Or the one you put in Elena's LLC so she could stage events? He stares at me. He didn't know I knew. He always forgets what I built. Elena shifts. Everyone is tense. We should take a break. We should not, I say. Brevity is mercy. Mr. Bell taps the trackpad. The final page stares up at him like a verdict. 3rd document, I say. He reads, voice thin now. Appointment of successor trustee, Schedule H. Executor authority passes to Margaret Harper upon authentication of audio file Omega. Elena laughs, an ugly bell-like sound. Executor? But the will, I say, is the lobby. Trusts are the house. Mr. Bell looks pale. Audio file Omega is the USB we played. So authenticate it, I say. He hesitates. Mrs. Harper, this will authenticate it, I repeat, and look at Daniel. If your father wanted you to lead, he wouldn't have tied your hands for 2 weeks. Elena's phone buzzes again. She hides it beneath the table. I see the preview. CFO. We have a problem. The door opens. A woman in navy steps in without knocking. Compact, efficient, beautiful in that terrifying way competence is. Apologies, she says. I'm Sarah Cole, Alpha Trustees Council. Mr. Bell rises a fraction. Old school courtesy meeting, new school leverage. Daniel bristles. Who called you? Your father did, she says, days ago. She sets a slim leather folder on the table. Trust H is active. This meeting is now dual, will and trust. Elena's smile tries to regrow. Wonderful, then let's be efficient. Sarah doesn't look at her. She looks at me. Only me. Mrs. Harper, do you authorize me to proceed? I do, I say. It sounds like vows. It feels like armor. Sarah slides out a single sheet, short, notarized, dated last week. Per Trust H, you are primary decision maker upon authentication, with power to freeze, audit, or remove interim managers for cause. Daniel stands. Remove? What cause? Sarah opens the 2nd page. Photos stapled neatly. A yacht party, an envelope exchange, a familiar man, our CFO, shaking hands with a lender I've told my husband not to touch since 2012. Elena stares at the photo, then at her phone, then at the carpet. Her cheeks stay perfect. Her pulse does not. Inappropriate exposure of core assets, Sarah says. Cause. Daniel looks at me like a boy at a locked door. Mother, I didn't know. I lift a palm. You will get your turn. I've had to wait through most of your life. You can wait through a morning. Mr. Bell clears his throat, returns to the laptop. A green checkmark pops up. Audio Omega authenticated. Sarah nods. Then per Schedule B, Mrs. Harper is now acting executor of Trust H and may direct counsel. The room tilts very slightly. Not for me, for them. Elena folds her hands. All this theater for control. Margaret, you don't even like the company. I like boundaries, I say, and I love consequences. Daniel sits down hard. What happens now? Now, I say, we breathe. I reach into my purse, set a small velvet ring box on the table, the kind collectors use, the kind that makes men lean and women calculate. Elena's eyes glitter. Finally, I open it. Inside, not jewelry, 2 thin brass keys crossed like quiet swords. My husband's handwriting on the velvet. Box 317, Argus Bank. Tonight, 7 p.m. Sarah lifts one brow. Argus has late-night access for private vault clients. Clever man. Elena scoffs. A bank box? Dramatic. Accurate, I say. Drama is how truth knocks when pride deadbolts the door. Daniel rubs his forehead. Mother, we can do this tomorrow. Tonight, I correct him, because after today, your calendar is not yours. Mr. Bell's phone vibrates across the table, an earthquake the size of a rectangle. He glances down, then up at me, then slides the screen face down. Say it, I tell him. He exhales. The board just called an emergency session. There's chatter about covenant breaches, the bridge loan, and he swallows. And a rumor that interim control moved. Elsewhere. Elena's composure finally slips. Who's spreading that? Your friends, I say, when they feel the floor moving. Sarah closes her folder. Mrs. Harper, shall I notify Argus you're coming? One more thing, I say, before we go vault hunting. I turn to Daniel. Bring me your phone. He hesitates just long enough to admit he shouldn't. Then he hands it over. I tap the last opened thread, the CFO again, a line I only need once to understand the shape of their week. We push assets before the widow gets ideas. I lock the screen and pass it back. You don't get ideas, I tell my son. You get instructions. He stares at the table. I thought Dad wanted... You thought wrong, I say. And thought is an expensive hobby in men who don't read. I stand. Sarah stands with me. Mr. Bell scurries to the door. Old men always hurry when a new order announces itself. Elena stays seated, spine stiff as borrowed steel. What's in the box, Margaret? I pick up the keys. They're warm from velvet, colder in air. Proof, I say, or mercy. I'll decide when I see it. Decide? Daniel echoes. About what? I pause at the doorway, give them both the gentlest smile I own. About who keeps their name, I say, and who returns it at the desk. The conference phone chirps one last time. Another pre-scheduled file I didn't know existed. My husband's voice, softer than before. If you're still arguing, stop. If Elena is in the room, tell her to leave. If Daniel is angry, let him be. Maggie, open box 317 without them. It's safer that way. Silence stretches. Elena rises half an inch, indignant. Sarah looks at me. We can follow his instruction. I nod once. My ring catches the light. The room finally remembers who taught it to shine. We step into the corridor, mahogany behind us, marble ahead. I don't look back. At the elevator, Sarah presses the button. Shall I arrange private entry? Yes, I say, and tell Argus to cut the lights on the viewing room. Dark? She asks. Dim, I correct. This kind of truth doesn't like fluorescence. The doors slide open. We enter. As the steel closes, the conference room phone bleats again, urgent, insistent, and through the narrowing gap I glimpse Elena snatch it up, her face blanching as a voice on speaker spits a number even rich people fear. We ride down in clean, expensive silence. When the elevator chimes, Sarah turns to me. Mrs. Harper, do you expect a fight? I slide the keys into my palm. They nest there like a future. No, I say. I expect a confession. The elevator doors part, Argus marble gleaming like a witness stand. And the vault door at the end of the corridor begins to unlock, tumblers turning with a sound that feels like history making up its mind. We cross the threshold, and the banker whispers, Mrs. Harper, your husband left 2 boxes, not 1. The Argus Bank is built to make people feel small. Marble floors so white they glare back at you, gold-veined columns that whisper about old money and older sins. Sarah walks beside me, heels clicking like punctuation marks. The banker, slim, discreet, British accent as crisp as linen, bows slightly. Mrs. Harper, Mr. Harper reserved 2 vaults under the trust, box 317, and a second 318. I watch his mouth form the numbers, and a question slides through me. 2 boxes, 2 intentions. Open both, I say. He blinks, uncertain. The second one, ma'am, requires joint authorization. With whom? He hesitates. Mr. Daniel Harper, Jr. Sarah folds her arms. We'll open the first one now. The banker nods and leads us into the hall. The door to the private vault room closes behind us with a hush that feels like respect. Box 317 sits mid-tier in the wall, ordinary, almost shy. Sarah slides the key in, turns it. Metal size. Inside, a black envelope, a fountain pen, and a flash drive. No jewels, no cash, just paper and secrets. Sarah hands me the envelope. Do you want privacy? No, I say. Privacy is where men like my husband hid everything. I unfold the paper. It's a letter, dated 2 weeks before he died. Maggie, if you're reading this, they're already circling the assets. Daniel thinks money is love with interest. Elena thinks it's inheritance. I think it's a test. The bridge loan will collapse in 90 days. I gave them enough rope. I left you the scissors. Sarah reads over my shoulder, jaw tightening. He knew. He always did. I slide the flash drive into the banker's laptop. Password protected. The screen asks for 3 letters. I type MAE. The files open instantly. Inside, video clips, time-stamped board meetings, private dinners, hotel lobby cameras, each one labeled with neat precision. Sarah double-clicks the first. Elena appears on screen, holding a wine glass, voice sweetened with ambition. Once Margaret's out, Daniel can merge Harper & Coder with Langford. We'll rebrand it, take the name Global. The old name dies with the old guard. Daniel's voice answers faintly off camera. Mom won't make it easy. Then don't make it a choice, she says. Sarah exhales slowly. So they were already planning it. I close the laptop, planning my erasure and failing at math. The banker re-enters quietly. Mrs. Harper, the second box, your son has just arrived. Sarah arches a brow. That was fast. I imagine someone called him, I say. People who steal always keep alarms on speed dial. Moments later, Daniel storms in. Tie loose, arrogance crumbling. Mother, what is this? Why am I hearing that you're here digging through boxes? I glance at the banker. Please, open 318. Daniel snaps. Don't, I'll open it. He pulls his own key, trembling slightly. When the lock clicks, the smell of cigarette ash drifts out, something burnt and old. Inside, a single envelope marked Evidence Hold. Daniel rips it open before anyone can stop him. Photos spill out. Him and Elena, meeting a man in a black sedan, exchanging envelopes. Each picture stamped with the logo of the Federal Banking Authority. Daniel's face drains. This is ridiculous. Dad set me up. No, I say softly. He simply documented what you already did. Sarah picks up a letter folded under the photos. There's another note. Daniel lunges, but she steps back and reads aloud. To whom it may concern. These images were collected by private investigator Alan Kerr under my direction. If my wife Margaret authorizes review, the contents are to be shared with federal authorities should Trust H assets be compromised. Sarah looks at me. Do you want to proceed? Daniel's voice cracks. Mother, please. I study him. His polished suit, his expensive shame, the faint echo of the boy who once built me birthday cards out of company letterhead. Proceed, I say. The banker nods, expression blank. He collects the photos, reseals the envelope, and steps out to make a call. Daniel grabs my arm. You'll destroy everything. Elena, she said. Elena says many things, I interrupt. None of them survive playback. He lets go, defeated. What happens now? I tilt my head. Now, the rope tightens. Sarah closes the box, slips the key back into my hand. Mrs. Harper, the federal contact is expecting confirmation. Tell him he'll have it by midnight. As we leave, Daniel mutters something I barely catch. Dad always loved you more. I turn to him, voice even. He didn't love me more, Daniel. He just knew which one of us could finish a plan. The banker returns, breath steady but eyes wide. Mrs. Harper, there's been an update. The board has suspended your son pending investigation. Daniel freezes. What? I look him straight in the eye. You had 14 days. You spent them lying. He opens his mouth, closes it again. Elena appears in the doorway, mascara streaked, phone clutched. She whispers, "They froze our accounts." I smile, polite and final. "Not yours, dear, mine." I walk past them, the marble echoing under my heels. Behind me, the vault door swings shut with the sound of judgment locking in place. Sarah catches up, voice low. "That was Mercy." "Not yet," I say. "Mercy starts tomorrow." She frowns. "And tonight?" "Tonight," I say, "we send the footage." The bank lights gleam off the brass key in my hand. Somewhere above, my husband's voice lingers in memory. Titles are sticks, keys are doors. I slip the key into my purse. The elevator opens, reflecting our faces, mine calm, hers calculating, theirs breaking in the distance. We step inside. Tomorrow, the city will wake to headlines. But tonight, the quiet revenge begins with the click of a single upload button. The elevator hums softly as it climbs toward the marble lobby. Sarah stands beside me, her reflection sharp in the mirrored walls. Neither of us speaks. Silence, I've learned, makes power louder. When the doors open, reporters already wait, like vultures dressed in linen. Cameras flash, microphones extend. "Mrs. Harper, is it true your son's been suspended?" I pause mid-step, the picture of controlled grace. "My son is learning accountability," I say. "It's overdue." They shout more questions, but I walk straight through, flanked by marble and money. Outside, the night smells like rain and headlights. My driver opens the door. Sarah slides in beside me. "The footage has been uploaded. Federal compliance will call before midnight." "Good," I murmur. "Let them call." As the car glides through the wet city, lights smear across the window like melted gold. I watch them blur and reform, like reputations. Sarah watches me instead. "You're calm." "I've been planning calm for 20 years, I reply. She smiles faintly. "You planned this?" "No," I say. "He did. I just learned the choreography." We stop outside the estate. The same house Daniel mortgaged behind my back. The same one Elena staged charity galas in while she networked her way toward infamy. The gate opens automatically. Power remembers its owner. Inside, the chandeliers still burn. Housekeeper gone. Silence layered thick. Sarah follows as I walk into my husband's study. Everything still in place except him. On the desk, the empty stand where his favorite pen once sat, and beneath it, another small envelope. No seal this time. Just my name, written with that familiar impatience of his. Maggie. If you're reading this last one, it means you chose justice over comfort. You always did. Don't waste your forgiveness on the wrong people. The truth needs witnesses. Send the file marked Bridge Loan Midnight. Then rest. You've already won. Sarah leans over. He predicted every move. He knew the house he built, I whisper, and who would try to burn it? I sit down and open the laptop again. The last folder waits, labeled Bridge Loan Midnight. Inside are contracts, forged signatures, and one hidden file, a recording. I click play. Daniel's voice fills the room, panicked. "If Mom finds out, we're done. Just transfer it under Elena's name. The bank won't cross her." Then Elena's, smooth, rehearsed. "Relax. By the time she notices, it'll be over." She's old, Daniel. She won't even understand the paperwork. Sarah exhales slow. That's intent and fraud. I nod. That's confession. She reaches for her phone. I'll forward it to the bureau. Wait, I say. I close the laptop. Not yet. Let them feel the silence first. Guilt sounds louder in the dark. We step out to the balcony. The city stretches below, lights like veins, pulsing with secrets. A storm rolls in, gentle thunder curling around the horizon. Sarah asks softly, "Do you ever regret it?" All of this? I think for a long moment. When people betray you for your money, I say, they think they're stealing your worth. They forget you built it. That's the part they can't touch. Lightning flashes, her face glows silver. "And your son?" she asks. "He'll learn," I answer. "Or he won't. Either way, he'll remember I warned him. One day you'll meet the woman your mother had to become." The rain starts. A quiet applause on marble. Inside, the phone rings. The sound slices through the calm like prophecy. Sarah answers, listens, then hands it to me. "It's the bank, Mrs. Harper." I press it to my ear. "Yes?" The voice trembles slightly. "Ma'am, someone just tried to access Box 318 remotely through an attorney account. The request was denied. The attempt was logged from your daughter-in-law's firm." I smile. "Good. Keep the log. Forward it to the same authorities." I hang up, pour 2 glasses of wine and hand one to Sarah. "To foresight," I say. She clinks my glass. "To revenge served with class." We drink. Outside, the thunder grows closer. Inside, the study clock ticks like a metronome for justice. The news alerts start pinging before midnight. Harper & Coer's board launches internal investigation. Elena's face flashes on screen, pale under perfect makeup. Daniel's photo beside hers, expression hollow. Sarah turns to me. "It's starting." "It's ending," I correct her. I pick up my husband's old pen from the drawer, a twin to the missing one, and sign the authorization letter, the last act of a wife who outplayed everyone in silence. I hand it to her. "Deliver this tomorrow." "What's it for?" "Control transfer," I say. "Full ownership back to me. Then I'll sell the company." Sarah blinks. "Sell it? After all this?" "Justice isn't keeping what's broken," I say. "It's knowing when to walk away before it cuts you again." The rain beats harder, washing away the past from the glass. Sarah studies me. "And what will you do then?" I smile, faint and sharp. "Start something smaller, something honest. Maybe a trust for women who spent too long forgiving men who didn't deserve it." She nods slowly. "You're extraordinary." "No," I say. "Just finished." The storm hits full now, lightning cracking across the sky like applause for closure. I glance once more at the photograph on the desk, me, my husband, and a boy who hadn't yet learned greed. "Rest now," I whisper to the air. "It's done." Downstairs, the security lights flicker as thunder rumbles, and for a heartbeat, I swear I hear his voice again, steady, approving, final. "Well done, Maggie. You turned the will into justice." I close my eyes, let the storm drown the last echo. Outside, justice rains down on the Harper estate, cold, cleansing, and absolute. By morning, the stories everywhere. News anchors wear their practiced sympathy, the kind they save for fallen dynasties. Harper & Comer air under investigation for financial misconduct. Corporate fraud rocks prestigious Harper family. I watch from the breakfast room, coffee cooling beside untouched toast. The television light flickers over the silver tray. My husband's initials still engraved on the handle. Legacy, I've learned, is just handwriting that outlives its author. Sarah walks in, tablet in hand. "They're calling it the Harper Air Collapse. You've officially replaced the weather as the nation's entertainment." I take a slow sip. "Good. Let them talk. The louder they talk, the less they think." She smiles, all sharp professionalism and quiet respect. "The feds confirmed they're reviewing the bridge loan files. They'll want your statement." Tell them they can have it after my son's press conference. She pauses. He's still doing it? Oh, yes, I say, setting the cup down. Guilt makes people theatrical. He'll try to spin this into tragedy. The misunderstood son, the manipulative wife, the grieving mother. He'll give them tears before breakfast. I stand, smoothing the silk of my blouse. Let's go watch the show. The press conference is held at the downtown headquarters. Harper glass and arrogance gleaming under the noon sun. Reporters swarm the plaza, flashbulbs, whispers, gasps. My chauffeur opens the car door and the murmurs turn into a hum. She came. She looks calm. God, she's stunning. That last one always comes. They never expect dignity to wear red lipstick. Inside, the lobby smells like polished marble and panic. Daniel stands near the podium, a little too straight, his suit a little too expensive. Elena hovers beside him, pretending concern but glowing with calculation. He sees me, falters just slightly, then recovers. The perfect son in a public tragedy. Mother, he says through clenched teeth, you shouldn't be here. I raised you, I say softly. I should be everywhere you fail. Sarah hides a smirk behind her phone. The cameras flash as Daniel steps to the podium. Good afternoon. My family has faced unimaginable loss and now unfortunate misinformation. I assure our investors that Harper & Comer remains strong. My late father's decisions were complicated. He glances at me then, voice trembling just enough to look human. But I loved him, and I love my mother, even when she's misled, the audience murmurs. Sympathy, confusion, exactly what he wanted. Then a man in the second row raises his hand. Daniel, the documents show your signature on unauthorized transfers. Can you confirm? Daniel stiffens. That's false. Someone tampered with... Another reporter interrupts, voice louder. Your wife's firm processed those transfers. Is she here? Elena's hand tightens around her clutch. For the first time, her mask flickers. I take one step forward. Would you like me to answer that? The crowd turns. Cameras pivot like predators. Mrs. Harper, the reporter says, are you confirming your son's involvement? I smile, slow, deliberate. I'm confirming my husband left proof because he trusted the law more than sentiment. Gasps ripple. Daniel's jaw tightens. He hisses, Mother, stop. But the screens behind him come alive. Footage, time-stamped, clear as betrayal in daylight. Elena's voice on a recorded call. Just transfer it. If she asks, tell her it's for restructuring. Then Daniel's. We'll move it to your account. It's safer there. The crowd erupts. Daniel turns pale. Elena looks ready to flee. How did? He stammers. That footage was your father's insurance, I say. You always mocked him for keeping things on tape. Security moves toward the front. Reporters shout over one another. Elena whispers something frantic in Daniel's ear. He pulls away. Too late. The public has teeth now. I walk to the podium, not rushing. Silence follows me. The kind born from shock, not reverence. My husband built this company on fairness, I begin. When he died, he left his fortune not to power, but to integrity. And you're all witnessing why. Daniel's voice cracks behind me. You planned this. No, I say, turning slightly. You did. The crowd catches the line like a live wire. A reporter yells, Mrs. Harper, what will happen next? I glance back at the screens. Whatever comes, it will be honest. Then I look at Daniel, my son, my ruin, my proof. You wanted to inherit control, I say softly. Now you've inherited consequences. He takes a step toward me, shaking. You've humiliated me. I meet his gaze without blinking. No, Daniel, you did that when you forgot who raised you. Security steps between us. Elena slips out through the side door, heels clicking like retreat. I hand Sarah the microphone. Handle the press. I have one more errand. She nods, understanding instantly. The trust board? No, I say, the house. By evening, the storm breaks again. Lightning rolls over the estate as if the sky's remembering what power sounds like. The foyer lights are on when I arrive, meaning they're still here. I walk inside, unannounced. Daniel sits slumped on the couch, half drunk, tie undone. Elena stands by the window, staring at her reflection like it owes her sympathy. "You ruined us," she spits. "Do you know what people are saying online?" "Yes," I say calmly. "I read better things on tombstones." She laughs bitterly. "You think you've won?" "I don't need to win," I say. "I just need the truth to breathe." Daniel stands unsteadily. "You could have handled this quietly." "I did," I reply, "until you mistook silence for surrender." Lightning flares through the window, illuminating all three of us. The fallen prince, the angry queen, and the woman who built the castle they tried to steal. Elena grabs her purse. "We're leaving." "Not yet," I say. "You forgot something." I place the second key, box 318's twin, on the coffee table. "Your husband's account is gone. But this key, it opens the storage unit where I left your name on a very different set of papers." Her brow furrows. "What papers?" "The ones showing who signed the falsified loan documents," I say softly. "Yours." Her face drains. "You forged that." "No," I interrupt. "I don't forge. I document." Daniel sinks into the couch, defeated. Elena stands frozen, realizing the end has already been written. "You wanted my husband's empire," I whisper. "Now you get his investigations instead." I turn to leave, my heels silent against the marble. Behind me, Daniel calls out, "What happens now?" I stop at the door, not looking back. "Now," I say, "you learn the difference between power and ownership." Outside, thunder cracks, loud enough to feel like applause. In the distance, sirens begin to wail, approaching, precise, inevitable. Inside, the Harper house finally echoes with something honest. Consequences. And as I walk down the front steps, I make my vow not to destroy them quickly, but to let them live long enough to regret every moment they underestimated me. Because revenge in my family was never about fire. It was about endurance. And tonight, endurance had my name. By dawn, the estate is silent again. The kind of silence that feels staged. Even the clocks seem to tick slower, as if time itself is waiting to see what I'll do next. Sarah arrives before sunrise, trench coat over her shoulders, phone already buzzing. "Federal investigators want your formal statement today," she says. I nod, sipping black coffee. "They'll get it when I'm ready. What about Elena?" "Her firm's locked down. She withdrew $50,000 before midnight, then vanished. No flight record, no hotel check-in." "She won't run," I say. "She'll circle. People like her always think they're too clever to disappear quietly." Sarah smirks. "You sound like you've done this before." "I've been underestimated before," I correct her. "That's better training." I set down my cup, smooth out the morning paper. Front page headline, "Harper Dynasty Implodes. Sources Reveal Secret Recordings." Below it, a photo of Daniel, unshaven, eyes hollow, and another of me, caught mid-smile at the press conference. They caption it, "The Widow Who Knew." I trace the words with my fingertip. The widow who knew. Fitting. Later that afternoon, I walk into Harper & Cobra headquarters. The receptionist freezes mid-sentence when she sees me. "Mrs. Harper, we weren't expecting—" "That's how I prefer it," I say. She nods and buzzes me in. The boardroom door opens to a half-circle of men and women in suits. The interim board, hastily assembled, already smelling of survival instincts. At the head of the table sits him, Raymond Langford, the partner Elena wanted to merge with. He stands, smile perfectly balanced between sympathy and calculation. "Margaret," he says warmly, "I was just about to reach out. I'm terribly sorry about Daniel's situation." "Situation," I repeat. "Interesting choice of word for a felony." He chuckles awkwardly. Now, let's not jump to conclusions. The markets are sensitive. We must handle this delicately." I take the seat opposite him, uninvited but entirely in control. Delicate, I say, is what got us here. Do you know what my husband called delicacy in business, Raymond? He hesitates. I'm not sure. Dishonesty with manners, I say. He preferred honesty with evidence. I slide a folder across the table. Inside, contracts signed between Langford and Elena, dated before my husband's death, listing Harper & Kohner's assets under joint transitional ownership. Raymond's smile fades. Where did you? From the woman who built the archive you tried to erase, I say. My husband left me more than nothing. He left me timing. He swallows hard. You can't prove I don't have to, I interrupt. Your name's on the merger file. The federal agents I spoke to this morning will see it before dinner. The room goes still. One of the board members, an older woman named Judith, clears her throat. Mrs. Harper, what are your intentions regarding leadership? I look around the table, at the people who once nodded at my husband's jokes, then plotted against his widow. My intention, I say softly, is to end this dynasty gracefully before any of you bury it completely. Raymond stares, incredulous. You're selling? Not selling, I correct. Liquidating. The name, the assets, the brand, everything. Judith blinks. But why? Because Harper & Co. was built on integrity, I say, and I'd rather bury a legacy clean than watch you auction its corpse. Raymond slams his hand on the table. You'll destroy generations of work. I stand. No, I'll preserve what's left by burning what's rotten. That night, Sarah and I drive to the old lakeside house, the one my husband loved most, the one Daniel mortgaged behind my back. The windows are boarded. The dock half collapsed, but inside, dust and silence hold stories like old friends. Sarah unlocks the back door. Why here? This, I say, is where my husband kept his unedited recordings. In the corner stands an antique desk with a small safe built underneath. I kneel, turn the dial. 3, the same digits from his will. The safe opens with a sigh. Inside, another flash drive and a photograph. My husband and Daniel fishing at dawn, both smiling. I take it out, thumb brushing over the edges. He really loved him, I whisper. Sarah says softly, love doesn't prevent betrayal, it just makes it sting longer. I plug in the drive. 1 file, no title. I play it. My husband's voice fills the room again, deeper this time, more tired. If they've reached this far, Maggie, it means the house fell exactly how I predicted. Don't save them yet. Let them see what they've done. The world will always pity a broken son, but it will respect a woman who refused to play victim. Sarah's eyes glisten. He planned this entire sequence. I nod. He knew our son's weakness, but he also knew mine. Which is? She asks. Forgiveness, I say. So he removed it from the equation. Outside, thunder rolls again. I look out toward the dark lake, the reflection of lightning fracturing the water like memory. Tomorrow, I say, the company's auction will go public. Raymond will panic. Daniel will call. Elena will beg. And what will you do? Sarah asks. I turn to her, calm and absolute. I'll let them talk, and I'll record every word. She nods slowly. You're not just ending them. No, I say, pocketing the drive. I'm teaching them the cost of underestimating a quiet woman. We leave the house, lights off behind us. Rain begins to fall, steady, relentless, cleansing. As we reach the car, Sarah says softly, "What's the plan after it's all over?" I look out at the lightning crawling across the horizon. When it's over, I whisper, they'll wish it had only been about money. Because for me, it never was. It was about dignity, the one currency that never depreciates. And by tomorrow night, every person who forgot that will learn exactly how priceless silence can be, right before I make it deafening. The next morning, the papers run a portrait of our family like it's an obituary rewired for scandal. Headlines call it collapse. I call it clarification. Either way, the phone doesn't stop ringing. I sit at the kitchen island where Daniel once taught me to roll dough. The room remembers his flour on the counter like an old kindness. Sarah spreads new files before me, subpoenas, transfer logs, a list of names the auditors want to interview, each one a small incision into the body they tried to hide. Raymond's calling for an emergency merger vote, she says. He wants to consolidate before the auction. Let him, I answer. All merger deals are auditions for greed. She studies my face. You're calm. I'm finished pretending otherwise, I say. Calm is useful when you're about to strip a house down to its studs. By noon, the federal investigator arrives. Mr. Hargrove, crisp suit, softer eyes than I expected. He's efficient but not theatrical. People who work with truth learn to bear witness without drama. Mrs. Chung Harper, he says, we need to review the footage and financials. There are enough probable cause flags to open a full inquiry. Take as much as you need, I say. My counsel will cooperate. And Mr. Hargrove, he looks up. If you find anything tied to Trustee Alpha's firm, call me first. He's not the enemy my husband thought he needed to hire. He's our ally. His eyebrows lift. You know him? I know the difference between someone who charges a lot and someone who keeps his hands clean, I say. Trust Alpha has a ledger that won't bend for charm. Hargrove nods slowly. Understood. The afternoon moves like a legal waltz. Witnesses are called, depositions scheduled. Each name we turn over is the sound of a blind spot being corrected. Sarah and I attend hearings, hand over hard drives, and watch as the federal team begins to map the architecture of the theft. They follow the trail the way blood leads a coroner to a truth. Midweek, a new player appears. Alan Kerr, the private investigator my husband hired and the one who'd left evidence in box 318. He's in his late 40s, shoulders broad enough to carry facts and small enough to be unnoticed in a crowd until someone needs him. He has a folder thick with timelines. Mrs. Harper, he says, voice the kind that has listened for years. You were right to trust him. The recordings are granular. Hotel lobbies, transfer confirmations, even a dinner reservation where someone passed an envelope under the table. He slides a photograph across the table. Elena's hand, a tight close-up, slipping a sealed envelope into a man's palm under linen. The man is a familiar broker, one my husband had warned about in board meetings. Elena's face appears in my mind. Perfect makeup, dreadful intent. I breathe once and let the image settle. If rage is heat, revenge is measured warmth. Measured warmth preserves bone. Alan leans in. There's more. A sequence of wire transfers timed to your husband's hospital stay. They thought the legal paperwork and the grief would cover the movement. They thought right, I say. That's why he left the keys. I look up at Daniel's photograph on the mantel. Him at 9, a smudge of jam on his nose, grinning. The grief for that boy and the grief for the man who betrayed me live in different rooms of my chest. One door closes, the other is locked for good. That evening, I convene the board under Sarah's supervision. The room fills with people who built their careers around other people's reputations. Their voices are small, brittle, with the realization that reputations fracture when evidence touches them. Raymond sits at the head, looking like a man who expected to be invited to the funeral, not accused at the wake. Mrs. Harper, he says with an attempt at gentleness, why this speed? Why the auction? Because silence dilutes witnesses, I answer, and because an auction that happens under scrutiny is healthier than a sale arranged in shadow. He scoffs. You'll bank on the market to preserve the family name? No, I say slowly. I'll bank on truth. The market does what markets do. It sets prices. Truth sets terms. One by one, the board members read the documents we hand them. Their faces change like lights being dimmed. Judith clears her throat. Margaret, your husband's trust gives you authority in these moments, but selling a legacy is necessary, I interrupt. If legacy means excuses for bad actors, it ceases to be a legacy and becomes liability. Raymond's phone buzzes. He reads, his color draining. "They froze our partner lines," he whispers. "Langford's partners are pulling out." "Because they prefer unsoiled names," I say, "and because the auditors found the transfers that connected you to Elena's shell companies. You have choices, Raymond. Help us stabilize or watch the market decide for you." He looks at the board, then at me. Pride meets survival and loses. By the time the trustee files the emergency injunction, my name stands at the top of a document that does not say widow or victim. It says executor, trustee, guardian. Those words are bridges back to the house, not monuments to the man. They are tools. Small victories stack like coins. The bank logs show the bridge loan never funded in the way Raymond expected. Elena's shell account was a staging ground. The real move would have gone through a chain the federal team is already unraveling. Each spool they pull reveals more thread. Then a micro twist, a call from an old friend of my husband's, the one who handled his yacht arrangements, a man named Stuart Voss. He asks to see me privately. There is something about the way he speaks that sounds like retired loyalty. He arrives the next morning with a single envelope. Inside, a bill of sale for a small piece of land my husband bought in a quiet town, a place where he and I once planned to retire. The sale had been recorded the same week my husband died, but under a different name. The purchaser, Elena's LLC. "Why would she buy your retirement?" I ask. Stuart shrugs. Cover, maybe, or real estate laundering, or hubris, but she left one thing out. The land has a covenant. Any transfer requires the grantor's notarized approval if it's within 10 years. Looks like someone forgot to notarize properly. A small detail, but details are how empires crumble. I feel my husband's hand on my shoulder from years ago, steady and certain. He taught me detail. That night, I visit the quiet town. The cottage on the parcel is empty, the windows shuttered. A neighbor remembers delivery trucks. A solicitor in a pencil skirt, a woman laughing too loud. They say she left abruptly on the night the press broke. The neighbor points me toward the back fence where someone had tried to remove a plaque. The screws are fresh. Back home, I sit in the study and lay out the map. Each clue draws a line. Langford, Elena's LLC, shell accounts, bridge loan, forged signatures. My husband's recordings and the investigator's photographs make the blueprint whole. I prepare one final public move. A press release not of accusation but of fact. A filing of assets for auction. The appointment of a forensic audit committee, and the formal notification that any party involved in fraudulent transfers will be referred to federal authorities. No flourish, only clarity. When the release goes live, the reaction is immediate. Investors pull escrow. Partners distance themselves. Elena's name vanishes from the social columns. Raymond's meetings empty out. Daniel's messages turn from calls to long strings of apologies I do not answer. The truth has a very particular smell, clean and sharp. It does not kiss or beg. It lists and proves. That night, I sit alone under the lamp in my husband's study, the same lamp that used to illuminate ledgers and jokes. I pour tea and listen to the hum of the house. Silence now is not a weapon, but a witness. I open my notebook and write a line my husband once told me. You don't get justice by shouting, you get it by showing. I fold the note, tuck it into the folder with the photographs, and slide it into the safe. The lock clicks like a punctuation mark. Outside, the sky clears enough to show a single stubborn star. I look at it and think of the many small lights that form the map of betrayal. Each one is now accounted for, tracked, and contained. When I turn to go upstairs, Sarah stops me. They've arranged a hearing for tomorrow. Daniel is trying to get a restraining order against the trustee. Good, I say. Let him spend the morning in court practicing excuses. She hesitates. He might try to embarrass you. I smile. Not cruel, only precise. Let him embarrass himself. Embarrassment reveals character. Character reveals culpability. She nods, then adds, quiet and practical. There's one more thing. Someone just called from Europe asking about a transfer into Elena's account from a shell corporation registered there. It's a strong lead. My eyes brighten like a match struck. Then we will light the next room. I turn and walk upstairs, the house steady beneath my steps. The plan unfolds like the pages of a book my husband left half written. I will finish it, not for anger, but for bookkeeping. Tonight, the files are in the hands of the right people. Tomorrow, the hearings will be public. The world will watch, and then they will listen. At the top of the stairs, I pause, feeling the shape of the house around me. Rooms that hold memory, rooms that hold contracts, rooms that hold the future. I think of Daniel sitting in a courtroom, forced to answer for choices he made in the dark. I think of Elena, alone with a suitcase that contains more than perfume. I go to bed that night with a final private thought. All of this began because a man loved evidence more than applause. He left me the tools. I will use them until every lie is accounted for. When sleep comes, it is precise and clean, like a signature signed in ink that cannot be washed away. The courthouse smells like disinfectant and fear. Reporters gather outside, their cameras pointed toward the double doors where reputations enter to die. Inside, I take my seat in the front row. Sarah sits beside me, tablet glowing with notes and evidence timestamps. Across the aisle, Daniel sits next to his lawyer, thinner, restless, avoiding my gaze. Elena sits behind him, sunglasses large enough to hide the ruin of sleepless nights. The clerk calls the case. Harper versus Harper trusteeship, a family name said like a crime scene. The judge, a woman with the eyes of someone who's seen every possible flavor of greed, looks over her glasses. Mrs. Harper, you're here as primary executor? Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Harper, you're contesting the liquidation of Harper & Co. assets? Daniel nods. I am. My mother's acting out of emotion, not reason. The judge tilts her head. And your defense? He swallows. The company belongs to me under my father's will. She's destroying what generations built. I fold my hands. Your Honor, may I? She gestures. Go ahead. I stand, the silence thick. Harper & Co. was built by my husband's integrity and dismantled by my son's entitlement. He forged signatures, authorized fraudulent loans, and partnered with my husband's rival through his wife's firm. I have evidence for each act verified by federal audit. The courtroom stirs. Cameras flicker. Daniel's lawyer tries to object, but the judge raises a hand. Proceed, Mrs. Harper. I nod to Sarah. She connects the tablet to the monitor. And the screen lights up with a short video. My husband's voice again. Daniel, if you're hearing this, it means you've forgotten what your name used to mean. This recording is my signature on your inheritance, conditional upon your honesty. You failed. Daniel's shoulders drop. Elena's sunglasses slip slightly, revealing the red beneath. The judge leans forward. Is this authenticated? Sarah responds. Yes, Your Honor. Metadata verified. Timestamp matches 3 weeks before Mr. Harper's passing. The judge nods. Then continue. I glance at Daniel, my voice quiet but steady. Do you remember, Daniel, what your father used to say at dinner? That every lie needs an audience, but truth needs only time? He doesn't answer. His jaw trembles. Time, I say softly, just ran out. The judge reviews the papers, brows tightening. Given the evidence, I see no legal basis to halt the liquidation. In fact, she pauses, looking directly at Daniel. There may be grounds for a criminal inquiry. Daniel's lawyer rises in panic. Your Honor, we request a recess. Denied, she says, voice like iron. This court doesn't recess for regret. Daniel looks at me then, finally. Eyes full of disbelief, like he's seeing me for the first time. You ruined everything, he whispers. I step closer, low enough for him to hear, but soft enough for the cameras to miss. No, I say. I corrected everything you ruined. Behind him, Elena stands abruptly. "I didn't know," she shouts, voice shaking. "It was his idea." Sarah clicks her pen. "We have the emails." The courtroom gasps. Elena sinks back down. The judge bangs her gavel once. "Order!" Silence. Only the sound of truth breathing in the room. Then, in the faintest motion, Daniel lowers his head, not in apology, but in surrender. The judge speaks slowly, clearly. "This court recognizes Mrs. Margaret Harper as the lawful executor and authorizes full dissolution of Harper & Co. All investigative materials will be referred to the Department of Justice for review." The gavel strikes. The echo feels like the closing of a chapter written in gold ink and betrayal. Outside, cameras swarm, microphones thrust forward. I walk through them like they're fog, every flash just another form of lightning. Sarah walks beside me. "You did it," she says quietly. "No," I reply. "He did." I stop by the courthouse steps, the sky bright and cold above us. For years, he thought he inherited power. He forgot power is borrowed. Accountability owns it. A reporter yells after me, "Mrs. Harper, what will you do now that you've won?" I turn slightly, smile faintly. "Winning implies it was a game," I say. "This was arithmetic. The sums finally matched." I step into the waiting car, close the door. The sound of the latch feels like punctuation, calm, final, deserved. But deep down, I know the story isn't over. Justice is done. But peace? Peace still needs a stage. And tomorrow I'll build it. By the next morning, the headlines have changed tone. No longer pity, no longer speculation, just facts, sharp and clean. Matriarch Margaret Harper wins court battle. Son and daughter-in-law under federal investigation. I sit in my garden with tea and silence. The magnolias are blooming again, stubborn, extravagant, unapologetic. They remind me of myself. Sarah walks out, phone in hand. "They're both trending," she says. "Daniel's resigned from the board. Elena's firm collapsed overnight. Investors pulled out before sunrise." I stir my tea slowly. The internet moves faster than karma. A breeze passes. For the first time in years, it smells like air, not performance. "Reporters want an interview," Sarah adds. "Tell them the truth doesn't need one," I say. I look across the garden toward the estate gates, where police cars had once gathered like vultures. Now only light lingers. Every betrayal has an aftertaste. Mine tastes like closure. The auction goes live that afternoon. Screens show bidders in New York, London, Dubai. Buying the pieces of the empire Daniel thought he'd inherit. Within an hour, the company is gone, dismantled into numbers and signatures. When it ends, Sarah hands me a folder. "All proceeds transferred to your private trust." I open it, read the balance, and smile faintly. Too much money for one soul, not enough for what it cost. "What will you do with it?" she asks. I fold the paper neatly. "Something cleaner," I say. "Scholarships, legal aid, women who trusted the wrong people but still had the right instincts." She nods, quiet pride softening her features. Evening falls. I walk back into the study, the same room where my husband recorded his final message. I pour a glass of wine and raise it toward the empty chair. "You were right, love," I whisper. Truth took its time, but it arrived. Lightning flashes across the horizon, not violent this time, but ceremonial, like a curtain call. The house no longer feels haunted. It feels inherited again. By me, the rightful heir not of wealth, but of wisdom. I close the ledgers, lock the safe, and turn off the lights one by one. Outside, Sarah waits at the car. Ready to leave it all behind? I look back at the mansion, its windows glowing like quiet eyes finally closing. "Yes," I say softly, "let the past rest. We've already outlived it." As we drive down the long gravel path, I see the reflection of my husband's initials carved into the front gate. For the first time, they don't belong to him anymore. They belong to the woman who finished what he started. And this time, no one will rewrite the ending. A month later, the house stands emptier. Lighter, even. The sound of lawyers, cameras, and gossip has faded. Now, there's only the hum of morning birds and the gentle click of a clock I never noticed before. I moved back into the guest wing, not out of modesty, but peace. The master bedroom still smells faintly of Daniel's cologne and Elena's perfume, two ghosts who lived briefly in my space and mistook it for theirs. I don't chase ghosts anymore. I let them drift. In the garden, the magnolias have begun to shed. Their petals fall like soft confessions. I sweep them into piles, slow and steady, one motion at a time. There's comfort in cleaning what others have dirtied. Sarah visits every few days. She finds me pruning the roses or filing old paperwork into neat labeled boxes. "Don't you ever rest?" she teases. I smile. This is rest. Because peace doesn't always look like silence. Sometimes it looks like organization. She glances at the newspaper on the table. A new article. Harper Estate funds Women's Legal Empowerment Project. Her voice softens. You kept your word. Promises are easier when no one's left to betray them, I say, half smiling. That night, I sit by the fire with a cup of tea. Jasmine, not black. The steam rises, curling like memory. I remember how, weeks ago, I poured tea in the courthouse cafeteria while reporters swarmed outside. It's strange how an ordinary ritual becomes a signature of survival. I open my notebook, the one filled with my husband's scribbles and business formulas. There, between 2 pages, I find the note I tucked in weeks ago. You don't get justice by shouting. You get it by showing. I underline showing and write beneath it, and sometimes by staying. The flames crackle. Outside, the rain begins, gentle, rhythmic, the sound of something cleansing itself. Through the window, the city lights shimmer in the distance. The world has moved on, but I'm still here, grounded, deliberate, unbothered. The phone buzzes once, a text from Daniel, just one line. I'm sorry, Mom. I stare at it for a moment, then type back, I hope you mean it, and then, delivered. I don't block him. I don't forgive him either. Some things aren't meant to be balanced, just remembered correctly. Before bed, I walk to the study one last time. The room is clean now, files sealed, justice archived. On the desk sits my husband's old fountain pen, the same one he used to sign everything that mattered. I pick it up and sign a new document, the deed transferring part of the auction funds into scholarships under his name. It feels right, not merciful, but final. I place the pen down gently. The lamp glows against the polished wood, catching the reflection of the woman I've become. Older, yes, but sharper too. Not angry, just awake. I take one last sip of tea, the same cup I held on the night everything began. The liquid's gone cold now, and yet it tastes peaceful. I whisper to myself, a small prayer disguised as a truth. Peace doesn't come from victory. It comes from verification. The fire dies to embers. The room exhales. And as I walk upstairs, I leave the lights off behind me, because justice, once done, doesn't need to glow. It just needs to rest. 5 years later, the world remembers the Harper scandal as a headline, not a wound. The company is gone, but its story became a case study in every business school that still teaches ethics. Proof that arrogance has an expiration date. I live by the coast now, in a small white house where the ocean never stops confessing. The neighbors call me Ms. Zem. They don't know the weight that letter once carried. They just know the smell of my cinnamon tea and the sound of jazz coming from the porch every evening. Sometimes I read the old newspapers, the ones that once printed my pain, and I smile. Time has a way of turning scandal into scripture if you let it. Daniel teaches finance now. He writes about corporate accountability. I suppose people can grow when truth costs them enough. He visits twice a year, always quiet, always humble. We don't talk about the past. We don't need to. It knows how to stay seated. Elena remarried and moved across the country. Her new husband sells life insurance. The irony writes itself. I sip my tea, watching the horizon, remembering the day I stood in court and refused to beg for dignity. That was the day I stopped being someone's wife, or mother, or victim, and became my own witness. People still ask if I miss my husband. I do, but not the man, not the marriage. I miss the sound of his belief in me. He once said, "You're the only woman I trust to finish what I start." And I did. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of salt and justice. I close my eyes, whispering to no one and everyone at once. Sometimes being left behind is the fastest way to get ahead. The kettle whistles, sharp, clear, certain. I pour another cup and set it beside the empty chair across from me. A small ritual. A private ending, a quiet victory. Then I look at the camera, the same calm smile touching my lips. What would you have done in my place? Tell me in the comments. And if you've ever trusted the wrong people, this story was for you. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me keep sharing these truths that too many women live quietly. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from? I love knowing how far these stories travel.